course it's risky to set up your own business, but I'd say ask yourself, what is going to be the risk if you don't set up your own business? You don't make a plan to get out. Are you just going to continue to be doing the same thing for the rest of your life? Is that really what you want to do?
On this week's episode of Escape the Rat Race Radio, we have a true inspiration, Jackie Tomes. Now, having built a £1.5 million property portfolio in under 18 months while working full-time, Jackie became financially free aged 26 and was able to quit her job in market research. And she is built from scratch and now runs a successful, values-driven family property investment business called Tomes Homes. And when not doing property deals, Jackie's speaking, training, mentoring and consulting in her areas of expertise, which are joint ventures and strategy. And Jackie is the only property expert to be accredited to deliver the strategy on a page methodology, which is a powerful tool that makes strategy simple to implement. So let's not wait around any longer. I can't wait to find out how Jackie has managed to do this in such a short space of time. And I know she's focused, she's driven, and we're going to go right over now to the interview with Jackie Tomes. Okay, welcome to another episode of Escape the Rat Race Radio. And this week, I'm really pleased to have Jackie Tomes with me. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, how are you doing?
Excellent, thank you. How are you today?
Yeah, really, really excellent, thank you.
Good. Where in the world are you today, Jackie?
Well, actually, we've just moved house and I'm now in Margate, actually, in Kent, by the seaside. So
Very nice.
A bit of a grey day, but it's by the seaside and it's awesome. So yeah, from Margate today.
Good. Well, hopefully not surrounded by too many boxes, and I appreciate you taking some time out to speak to all of our members today. You've had an absolutely meteoric rise to fame, in my opinion, over the last kind of 12 to 24 months, and it's a fantastic story that you have to share, Jackie. So I'm really excited to hear about that. Maybe we can just kind of rewind a little bit, because we met probably at the start of 2015, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, gosh, that's years ago now.
Literally, that was at a point where I had just given up my full-time employment and embarked on setting up Escape the Rat Race. And certainly things have just gone crazy over the last 12 months, but not as much as they have for you. So maybe you could just go back to the beginning and even before, we get into your story of property and where you're at now, but let's take it back to when you were in employment. And what was the point for you when you kind of decided in your head, okay, I don't want to just stay in a job all my life. I want to do something different. And then how did that lead to property?
I think there actually were almost two defining moments. There was, first of all, the moment that I realised that a job was not as secure as we kind of led to believe. I used to work in market research and I worked with a really lovely team. I was a project manager at the time and working for a successful market research agency in central London. Pretty much out of the blue, one day we found out that a load of redundancies were coming through. The company wasn't doing as well as we thought it was, and they were having to make massive cutbacks. And all of a sudden, overnight, the team of, there must have been about 10 or 12 of us, halved in size overnight, and people were made redundant by the end of the week. And it was just such an awful time to see such amazing, talented, committed people just losing their jobs and their livelihoods overnight. And I realised then that, gosh, maybe this job malarkey isn't all it's cracked up to be. So that was kind of the realisation that, gosh, maybe this isn't the right path. But it kind of took a while after that to actually get to the point of saying, right, what am I going to do about it? And maybe, I'm sure many people listening, you've kind of sat on a lovely holiday. So for us, we sat on holiday at the beginning of 2014, January 2014. We were on a ski resort in the French Alps. Beautiful morning, snow everywhere outside, but I had that awful feeling in the pit of my stomach, that kind of feeling of a bit of dread that actually, Monday, I've got to go back to work and this lovely holiday is over, and not wanting to have to do that anymore, wanting to take some control back, to have more freedom, more time, and just a bit more money to go on more holidays. And that moment there, that's when I started hatching the plan.
Yeah, yeah. So what were the steps that you took following that to kind of start educating yourself? And did you start networking and going out and seeing what there was on offer?
To be honest with you, no to the networking side of things. My first, because I really love networking now, but back then, that kind of the idea of going to a meeting and like meeting people there and talking to them, that didn't really do much for me. Made me quite nervous. So actually, what I did was I was in the back of a ski van being taken back from one of the resorts to another, and I was literally on Amazon on the expensive roaming Wi-Fi or whatever, downloading as many books that I could about kind of property, building wealth. I'm pretty sure I downloaded Rich Dad Poor Dad at that time as well. Downloaded about 10 or 15 different books, all to, actually, it wasn't even Kindle I was using at that point, just to be delivered so that when I got back home, I could just kind of start reading and just learning. And that's pretty much what I spent the next 18 months doing, just literally reading everything I could in books.
Wow, that's amazing. What were some of those early resources then? Are there any particular books or podcasts or videos that you watched in that period of time that really had a big impact?
Well, I'm no to videos and no to podcasts. I wasn't really into that kind of like didn't really know that was even available at that time, to be honest with you. I read a few, the names of them kind of escape me now, but kind of really basic level stuff about why buy to let is good, why property is good. And to be honest with you, the real standout one, as it is for many people, was Rich Dad Poor Dad, because it was just such a revelation at the time. Just these concepts that actually, God, this, what we're all kind of taught and conditioned to do, maybe that isn't the best route. So that's kind of the real standout one for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And at that time, did you envisage that you were kind of embarking on a journey as an entrepreneur? Did it feel like that, or was that something
No,
that naturally kind of developed?
it completely developed. I don't know about you, but I've always kind of loved the idea of having my own business, but I didn't have any ideas. I didn't have a concept or this big grand idea or whatever that I was going to go and pitch at some dragon's den or whatever. But I really like the idea of having my own business. I never really thought that property could be a business and that by getting going in property, you could actually be an entrepreneur. That kind of never crossed my mind. All I wanted to do was, the plan became, I want to get 5 buy-to-let properties by the time I was 35. When I started that journey, I was like 24 at the time, and I just thought, I want to buy some properties. I know that if you set it up right, I'm sure you could make some money on a monthly basis, get some more cash flow than I had from my job, and just either be able to go part-time or just have a bit more choice. And there was no schemes of having a whole business or anything like that. It was really as simple as that.
I know for many people who kind of get this light bulb moment, and it sounds like you did through your education, reading, and just starting to think, look, this is possible. Having the support around you can be, well, for some people, it can be quite lonely because people just don't get, the same mindset and the same wavelength that you can find yourself getting to. So it sounds like you've definitely had the support of David. What about family and friends? Did you share this journey with them at the time?
I've been very lucky. My family have been very supportive of me, and they especially were in the early days when I was looking at getting the first buy to let, because that kind of made sense to them. That was, what a lot of people do. You kind of try and get a second buy to let property, and granted, that's not normally in your 20s, but they kind of got that concept. So I was lucky in that regard. It wasn't until I started, well, David and I started really ramping it up and buying a lot more properties that they kind of got a little bit more unsure about it and a little bit more nervous and a few more kind of objections, but that never sort of manifested in them kind of discouraging me from doing it. They just had a few like really niggly kind of objections I'd have to try and sort of explain to them. But no, I think I've probably been very lucky in that regard. I've had objections, but I have had enough courage in my convictions and what we've been doing, and I've had no one being really nasty in the background. It's just kind of, some people have kind of come with us, and for me, taking as many people with me is what's really important to me. And I've tried as much as I can along the way to support and help friends and family to kind of come along as well and to get involved too. And for the most part, actually, that really has happened. And a lot of people are now, a lot of my friends are now starting their own businesses. Maybe it's not property. And so, yeah, I hope that I've been a small part of kind of helping them get over that initial hurdle to starting that.
Well, I'm absolutely certain that you have. We reconnected again recently at the Inspired Property Network, which was run by James and Hayley Burt in Greenwich in London. And I hadn't seen you for a good year or so. And I mean, you just epitomise the power of focus and having a real clear vision. So we've heard a bit about the beginning there. In that space of time, you have since built up a probably over £1.5 million property portfolio now in under 18 months. And you've given up your job in that time. So maybe you can take us to the point where the property business was at a level where you thought, okay, I can give up work now. And were you waiting for a certain income? Was it going to match your salary, or did you just kind of take the jump when it felt right?
Yeah, you're right. So we after like the 18 months of reading loads of books, we managed to buy the first buy-to-let property. We ended up, I don't know how you end up on all these mailing lists from these big property companies, but I've clearly been signing up to stuff online, and I ended up on a webinar with the inspirational Mr. Rob Moore from Progressive Property, and was just kind of blown away by what he had to say. And he kind of caught me at the right time because we'd already done one property, and I was kind of, thinking about how the next one was going to come about. I ended up on a webinar, and I bought a book, and I got free tickets to go to one of Progressive Properties events. And I ended up at a 3-day event in London, listening firsthand to what was possible and how you could kind of get to the next level, starting to network with other people that I hadn't done before. And that was the moment that we said, right, we're going to really step this up. From what these guys are saying, we could really change our lives in the next 12 months if we just really go for it. And a big part of that was hearing about the power of joint venture finance and how you could work with other people to help not only yourselves but also them, and also fast track your journey. So it was that
Sure.
point that we said,
When was this roughly? Was this 2015?
This was October 2015.
Wow.
I lost where are we? I've lost my dates. You know what? Actually, no. I think
It was
October
last year, 2014. Yeah.
2014.
Yeah. So just over 2 years, so only sort of 24 months ago, and well, it's phenomenal where you've taken things, both yourself and David. So would you like to take us up to how you've come to this point now where you are now one of the leading lights in the UK property scene? And, I've seen articles in your property network, which you've been in, and probably a whole host of other media as well. So just how did that accelerate so quickly following attending the Progressive event that you just mentioned?
Yeah, great question. So we basically, after that event, we set ourselves a marker in the sand. We said, we want to replace my income within 12 months, and I want to leave my job 12 months from now. If there's one thing that Dave and I are great at, it is just going for it, making a decision, not looking back, and just taking consistent action to get towards that kind of next step. And I think it's kind of does show the power of just having courage in your convictions and just going for it. So we went and spoke to some family members who we knew had some cash, but wasn't really doing much. And from that, we kind of started to be able to buy some more properties. And then it kind of started to spiral out from there. We started talking to people outside the family who also wanted to do something similar. And so very quickly, we started to build a whole portfolio that, I was imagining it would take me 10 years to build. And we built more than what I expected in a decade, in a year. You know what? It was an inspiring and exciting and exhausting time, but we did it, and we bought another 8 properties in those kind of 6 to 8 months following that Progressive event. And then I started to hear about the opportunity with speaking, and that you could get out there and kind of share your message and your journey with others to help them to kind of change their lives as well, which sounded amazing to me. And that really was, I guess, the start of reaching a much wider audience than I ever would have done had I just carried on just doing the property stuff and not kind of built in the speaking side of things as well. So I just did some speaker training with unlimited success, and just started getting out there at property events, just sharing some of the tips that we use to go and build the portfolio. It is amazing what's possible once you start to kind of put yourself out there. And I'll be brutally honest, I was absolutely terrified. The idea of doing it was terrifying, like just kind of bearing your soul and your journey and what you've done in front of a room of people of varying levels of experience. Some people having so much more experience in property than me, that was terrifying. but it kind of really accelerated things. And you'd have someone hear you speak at an event and say, oh, do you want to come and speak at this event? Or opportunities would open up with new business partners from events. And that kind of, the amount of people that I've kind of met and spoken to and, spoken in front of over the last, I guess 18 months, not even 14 months, that's been a big part of just getting what we're about, who we are, what we've done out there. So that's it really.
I commend you, because it sounds like that you really step outside of your comfort zone and push yourself. And a big part of what we discuss and talk about Escape the Rat Race is the mindset is the foundation of everything. And it sounds like you've really worked hard on your mindset. And we mentioned about, having focus and clarity, and that came out within your presentation when I saw you recently as well. So do you set goals? I mean, you said that you set the goal of 12 months to leave employment, and you achieved that within 12 months. Was that sooner than 12 months or spot on?
So I actually ended up giving in my notice a bit before the 12 months. We knew that we had a couple of other properties, because I had a 3 months notice period as well, which is like, God, how do you time that? How do you time that with not being too far beyond the goal? And so in the end, we knew we had a couple of properties in the pipeline that were just in the process of being refurbed and would soon be cash flowing. So we knew that we were there in terms of replacing my income, but also the opportunity that was coming out from being a speaker and a trainer, that got to the point that I was losing more by being in a job, just because I was having to say no to opportunities that really would have helped us move forward. So it just got to the point that I had to leave. We knew that the income, we were there. So I gave him my notice before we'd hit it, but we were very close, and I knew in those 3 months we were going to get there. And then I was off and ready to go and do far more of the speaking and training side of things as well, which was just an amazing opportunity.
I'm going to come on to that in a second, because I really want to find out obviously what you're doing right now and hear all about your new strategy on a page, which is super exciting. And just one question which I know lots of people will be thinking is, how do you fit everything in? Because time's a problem for us all, we're all saying, oh, we're so busy. But how did you buy all those properties when you still had a full-time job? Where did you fit everything in?
I guess the first thing that happened was we knew it was going to get a heck of a lot harder before it got easier. It wasn't just going to be like hard for a month. It was going to be, a good year or more of working really, really hard. So first of all, we kind of accepted that fact that we were going to have to suck it up and do that work if we wanted to have this amazing life in the future. So that was the first part. And to be honest, for a year, I saw my friends kind of in the autumn of 2014. And I said to them, I love you guys, but you're not really going to see me for the next year, because I've just got to do this. I've got to go out and take advantage of this opportunity that's in front of me. And so in terms of seeing other people, seeing friends and socialising, that was what suffered, to be honest, for a good year, in order to give ourselves the time to make it happen. Now, we could certainly have still kept in some social time, but it would have taken longer. We wouldn't have got where we had so quickly. It's amazing what property, what business can give you, but it doesn't happen by accident, and you have got to do the work for it to keep paying you back in the future. So if you really kind of want it, just make that decision and understand that things are going to get a lot harder first of all, but then just know that point that things are going to get easier. Kind of put that marker in the sand and say, once we've got to this point, then we kind of readjust the balance again, and it doesn't become all about working, because that is a real danger, obviously, of just getting your head down and working like that for the rest of your life, which is definitely not the point of, well, if not for us, of doing all this stuff anyway.
I think that's fantastic advice, and I think you're about as close as it comes to an overnight success. You've done it as quickly as possible. We see so much of this get rich quick online. Everyone's saying make £10,000 in a month, and we know the hard truth of it is it takes time, and you've got to play the long game, especially with property. Really, I mean, it's definitely possible to make cash flow reasonably quickly. People need to go into it with a long sort of time frame goal and ambition, don't they?
Definitely. You've got to have that long-term view, and I think that's why we started in we had a kind of dual approach to it. We wanted to create cash flow for ourselves, but I also wanted to build wealth as well. So therefore, it was a long-term plan. It was like a whole life of generating wealth for ourselves and our family. yeah, having that long-term view is really important. And I think you generally make better decisions when you've got a bit of a balance of the short term with the long term. And especially if you're buying property, it's different if you're doing like rent to rent, you can create cash flow quite quickly. But if you're buying property, and especially for my leasehold properties, they take longer to buy, which is what we were doing. You are going to have an offer accepted. It's going to be at least 3 months before you complete on that. And then you've got a refurb, and then you've got to get the tenant in. So, and then there's always more expenses and things in the first month. So really it's 6 months before you kind of really see any benefit of all that work that you've done. And probably 3 months before that, you've been searching for the property and putting in offers and not having them accepted. So it's like a 9 months to a year lead time, really, for it to come together. But it does come together, and you're kind of compounding on all that work at the same time. But you've got to have patience, and you've got to have a long-term view, absolutely.
So with all of this experience that you've built up, Jackie, I know that you're now sharing this with clients and you're mentoring and consulting in your areas of expertise. And you've now become the only property expert to be accredited to deliver the strategy on a page methodology. So please tell us a little bit more about that.
What I found and what I was seeing a lot in property was people not being strategic and actually getting quite overwhelmed by all the choice that there was available. And we use the strategy on a page tool. It's created by a company called BGI, Business Growth International, which is run by my mentor. Got accredited to use this tool to go out there and help property investors specifically be more strategic. So it's a great tool because business plans can be so unwieldy, and let's be honest, who really gets around to actually writing a full-on business plan? So easy to procrastinate on that one. So what's great about
collect dust on a table or in a drawer, don't they?
Exactly, yeah, it's not actionable, it's not flexible. You're exactly right. If you do write it, it's very likely to be gathering dust somewhere. So the strategy on a page, we use it in our business. It's great for keeping yourself focused, on track, and just knowing that what your business is, and making sure that you've got a real plan to go out there and achieve your vision and what you really want in the end. So I'm getting the strategy word out there to people in property. Strategy on a page is one of the tools that I use to do that. And it's great because it's something you can just have. It's very visual. You can stick it on your office wall, and it helps you just keep on track in all your decision makings day to day. So you can always refer back to it. It's very, very useful in that regard.
Now's time for a little bit of fun, Jackie. We're going to fire through just a few questions here. Just have a little bit of fun with this because it'd be great to get your answers. So, okay, let's just roll into this one. And the first one category is readers are leaders. So, what book or audio has most inspired you recently that you can share with our listeners?
I would say Go for No by Richard Fenton. Yeah, it talks about how you can, if you're going out there and trying to build your business, that actually you need to target yourself on the amount of no's that you get, because you're going to have to get no's if you want to get the yeses. So it just kind of talks about not, fearing rejection and actually kind of embracing it. So that was great.
Wow, that's great. And that leads on to the next one, which is called Rejection Recall. So can you recall the biggest rejection in business life? What was it and how did you bounce back from that? Because every entrepreneur has experienced bumps in their journey.
Oh my gosh. Well, actually, one of the most, I guess it was I went out to view a property, and it was at auction, but I went to go meet the vendor, and he was showing me around the property, and he basically kind of laughed in my face and told me that I shouldn't be such like a silly young girl. This property project was far too big for me, and this wasn't for me. I should leave. And that one kind of really quite stuck out to me as like, wow, people still think like that, really?
Yeah, well, you've certainly gone and shown him, haven't you?
I certainly did.
Excellent. Okay, so daily discipline, one habit or activity that keeps you focused and on the path every day.
8 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely getting a good amount of sleep. I do enjoy running as well, like a half an hour run in the morning, just kind of, I go on a run with Dave and we chat, and we often have our biggest eureka moments when we're out running. So yeah, definitely that.
Next one is called What's Happening. So what was the last app you downloaded to your phone that you're using most often on a daily basis?
Oh, the last app. Oh, I think Evernote has been the most recent addition. I wasn't using that until very recently, and that has really sped up how we're keeping notes and how I'm sharing them with other people. So we use that to share them with our VA, with other members of the team, with Dave, and so we can both edit notes and also like you can categorize them really well, have different workbooks. Yeah, it's brilliant for going paperless, basically.
Excellent. Real popular one, Evernote. And the final one in this little round is Enter the Mentor. So we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our mentors. And for me, that really began just listening to Jim Rohn, personal development. So what would be your advice for our listeners in finding the right mentor? And do you currently have mentors yourself? And how did you go about finding them?
Yeah, I completely agree with you about you've got to have the right mentors around you because it's just a scary. We're in the unknown doing all of this crazy business and property stuff. So the very least you can do for yourself and give yourself that peace of mind is that when stuff goes wrong, which it will, you've got someone at the end of an email or the end of the phone who can just talk you through it, who's been there, seen there, done it, knows that it's not the end of the world and you can get through it. So I would completely agree with that. Advice for finding a mentor is just find people who inspire you, people who've been on a similar journey to what you want to go on. I would also say people that aren't too far removed from what you've done. You kind of want people who are several years ahead of you so that you can they still understand where you're at and they get you. They're not so far removed that they've forgotten the pains of being at the beginning in property or business. So someone who's a few steps ahead of you. And yeah, absolutely, we still have mentors. That was one of the things that really changed our property journey and accelerated that kind of second year was I joined the VIP program with Progressive and got a mentor through that way. But people I've kind of had mentors officially who I've paid a lot of money to work with, but also more informal mentors who are people who are, again, a few stages ahead of me, but who I kind of just can chat to and ask an occasional question. So definitely you've got to do it, and I've still got a mentor who we see and spend time with, kind of reviewing our strategy, where we're going and what are the pain points that we're experiencing and how we're going to get through them. So I definitely would recommend it.
What does 27 hold for you?
Next year is all about continuing doing what we're doing. Nothing more, nothing new. We're very clear about the areas that we're focusing on. So we've got the strategy business. I also do some speaking for Progressive, which I'm really loving. And then we've got the property investment side of things. So we're just continuing to scale what we're doing. We've actually recently, we started our business right on the outskirts of Southeast London. We chose it there for the balance of potential for capital growth alongside great rental yields. That plan worked really, really well. The values have gone up very well, but that has meant that the yields have gone down. So we made the decision recently that we needed to move and find a new area to focus on for kind of the next 5 years. And so we have recently moved out to Margate, that I mentioned at the beginning, on the Kent coast. So we are focusing on doing very similar to what we were doing before, still single lets, but just kind of on a slightly larger scale in terms of being able to buy blocks of flats and scale up quickly that way. So we're continuing to do more of that through 2017. The strategy consultancy work will continue to be the same. I'll still work one-to-one with clients, and we're running our own events as well, and doing speaking at Progressive as well. So that's just continuing to consolidate and grow what we've already done.
And for anyone that's listening who is maybe in a position that, we were both in kind of 24 months ago, in a full-time job and just thinking, how can I start planning my escape route out of here? What would be your advice for someone who's looking to start their own business, but they're being held back by the kind of fear of leaving a secure job and a regular paycheck?
I would say that there's too much proof, and I as I mentioned earlier, saw first-hand proof that a secure job is only as secure as your notice period, about 1 or 3 months or whatever it may be. So security is an illusion in that regard. And yeah, of course, it's risky to set up your own business, but I'd say ask yourself, what is going to be the risk if you don't set up your own business? You don't make a plan to get out. Are you just going to continue to be doing the same thing for the rest of your life? Is that really what you want to do? Quite often, if we're in a job and it can be really comfortable, you know that each month that same amount of money is going to hit your bank account, and yeah, it's not perfect, and there's a few people that you don't get on with, and you don't love the work. That can often be quite comfortable. Sometimes you need to give yourself a bit of pain in order to make yourself progress. Comfort really is the enemy of progress, I would say. And you just don't want to look back sort of 5, 10, 20 years from now and regret what you didn't do. Because I hear so many people say to Dave and I, oh, you're so lucky, I wish I'd done what you're doing, I wish I'd done it sooner. We don't wish we'd done it later. So yeah, just surround yourself with the right people, just get the right mindset, get the right support of a mentor who can help you. Make a decision on what you're going to focus on in business. Don't try and do too much all at once, and just go for it, because it will be an amazing, terrifying, exciting journey, but you'll never look back.
Wonderful words to leave us on there, Jackie. So thank you, Jackie. If people want to connect with you and find out more about everything that you're doing, maybe come and listen to you speak, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Facebook is the best way. So yeah, search Jackie Tomes on Facebook and add me as a friend. I've got a business page on there as well that you can like. And there's also, I do like a bit of a newsletter and some strategy tips and things every now and then. So I've got to share the link with you, Christian. So sign up to that and you can keep in touch with us that way as well. But yeah, please do get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. And I hope you've enjoyed our half an hour together.
Well, I certainly have, Jackie, and I'll let you get back to all the unpacking of the boxes. And thank you once again for joining and sharing your story with all the Escape the Rat Race members today.
Thanks so much for having me, Christian. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you to Jackie Tomes for such another inspirational story of making that transition from full-time employment to being your own business owner, having the freedom to travel, to do things when you choose. Jackie is now inspiring so many others in such a short space of time. She's really focused and made it happen. Her strategy on a page is something you need to check out if you're interested in investing in property. Okay. If you enjoyed this week's podcast, then why not check out our other podcasts? They're all stored on the Escape the Rat Race website, and you can go and check that out at www.etrr.online. I'm going to sign out, wishing you a fantastic week, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.